You know, when you see the headlines about China today, it's so easy to get lost in the now. But to really, truly understand what's going on, you've got to look back. And I don't mean just decades, I mean millennia. It's this absolutely epic story of empires, ideas, and massive transformations. So let's dive in and see how this immense history has shaped the nation we see today. See, this isn't just about a long timeline. It's a story of incredible endurance. China is one of the world's oldest, continuous civilizations. For thousands of years, its history was defined by the rise and fall of powerful dynasties. This whole cycle was driven by a core belief, something called the mandate of heaven. So let's dig into what that actually meant. Okay, so here's the fundamental rhythm of Chinese history, the dynastic cycle. For over 3,000 years, emperors ruled with what was known as the mandate of heaven, basically a divine right to govern. But here's the catch. If an emperor became corrupt or wasn't up to the job, he could lose that mandate, and that would lead to collapse and, you guessed it, the rise of a brand new dynasty. So who ran this vast, complicated empire? Well, it wasn't warriors, it was scholars. Get this, for over 2,000 years, China was run by this unique class of people, the scholar officials. Power wasn't something you inherited, and it wasn't something you won with a sword. Nope, it was earned through pure intellect. These civil servants had to master philosophy, poetry, calligraphy, and then pass these ridiculously hard exams to prove their worth. It created a kind of meritocracy, a government run by the most educated minds. And the very heart of their world was a place of ultimate power and total exclusion. This whole imperial system, built on order and intellect, it needed a physical center, right? A place that projected the emperor's power not just over China, but, as they saw it, over the entire world. And here it is, the Forbidden City. For 5 whole centuries, this was the ultimate symbol of imperial power. And the name, well, the name says it all. This wasn't just some palace. It was the private, hidden world of the emperor, who was considered a divine ruler at the very center of the universe. Think about it. 24 emperors from 2 major dynasties, the Ming and the Qing, ruled from right inside these walls. This wasn't just a home, it was the hidden nerve center of a massive empire. Here, in total seclusion, the fate of millions of people was decided. The scale of power packed into this one single place was just staggering. And just to give you a sense of that power, check this out. 200 tons. That's the weight of a single piece of carved stone. It formed a ramp that only the emperor himself could be carried over. Can you even imagine the resources and manpower it took just to move that thing? It's a perfect, massive testament to the absolute power wielded from within these walls. And just look at this contrast. On the left, you've got the Forbidden City as it was, this exclusive, super-ordered imperial court. And on the right, you see what it is today, a public museum, a World Heritage Site, completely open to the world. So the big question is, how did this intensely private, forbidden world become so public? Well, the short answer is that the walls of the Forbidden City, and really the walls of China itself, were eventually broken down. A new force was rising in the world, and it was about to come knocking loudly. The 19th century brought this massive, world-changing collision. Industrialized Western powers, especially Britain, saw China as this huge, untapped market. They were determined to force it open, and their product of choice, tragically, was opium. The conflict that followed wasn't just a war. It would absolutely shatter China's imperial order and its entire view of the world. This cartoon from 1898 just captures the moment perfectly. You see Queen Victoria, the German Kaiser, the Russian Tsar, and they're all literally carving up a pie labeled Chine, which is French for China. Defeat in the Opium Wars kicked off what's now known in China as the Century of Humiliation. It led to these unequal treaties and the loss of territory. Most famously, a small rocky island that would soon become world famous. You see, Hong Kong wasn't taken all at once. It was put together piece by piece. First, in 1842, Hong Kong Island was handed over to Britain forever. Then the Kowloon Peninsula followed in 1860. But the last and largest piece, the new territories, wasn't handed over for good. In 1888, Britain leased it for 99 years. And that 99-year clock, well, that would change everything. So while all these foreign powers were chipping away at its edges, China was basically imploding from the inside. The old dynastic system just couldn't handle the pressures of the modern world. The The 20th century saw the most radical, violent transformation in the nation's entire long history. And the fall was fast. In 1912, the last emperor abdicated, and just like that, thousands of years of imperial rule were over. But what came next was pure chaos, a power vacuum, a brutal invasion by Japan, and a long, bloody civil war between the nationalists and the communists. That all ended in 1949 with a communist victory and Mao Zedong declaring the new People's Republic of China. The rise of this powerful, unified communist China, well, it changed the game completely. Suddenly, that 99-year lease from way back in 1898 wasn't just a historical footnote anymore. It was a ticking clock. And as 1997 got closer and closer, the big question loomed. What on earth was going to happen to this capitalist British colony sitting right on the coast of communist China? The solution was something the world had never, ever seen before. It was a principle called one country, two systems. This was the formula, the big idea, designed to bridge the enormous gap between communist China and capitalist Hong Kong. It was a way to allow for reunion while recognizing they were two profoundly different worlds. So, the 1984 agreement between Britain and China laid it all out. After 1997, Hong Kong would be part of one country, that's China. But for at least 50 years, it would be allowed to keep its own system, its capitalist economy, its way of life, its own government. So what did that actually mean in practice? The core promises made were pretty remarkable. First, a high degree of autonomy. Second, its free market economy and way of life would stay untouched. And third, and this is so critical, its legal system, which was based on British common law, would be maintained completely separate from the mainland system. It was a truly unprecedented political experiment. At the same time, as Hong Kong was returning, mainland China was going through its own earth-shaking transformation, an economic miracle. But this explosive growth wasn't without its own set of problems. This quote from back in 2005 shows that even inside China, people were deeply concerned about the consequences, especially this massive polarizing gap between the new rich and the poor. And this is the result. The incredible skyline of Hong Kong, one of the most important financial hubs on the planet. A city that physically embodies the intersection of China's immense history and its powerful reemergence onto the global stage. It is the place where one country, two systems is a living, breathing, daily reality. Which really leaves us with one final big thought. From the ancient dynasties in the Forbidden City to the century of humiliation and the incredible rise of a new China, these immense historical forces are still very much at play, shaping the present every single day. And maybe the biggest question of all is how this deep, complicated 5,000-year-old past will define the future.